Hey Adam, how you going?
Good, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for being on the podcast today.
No problem.
Adam is a friend and colleague, and we thought we'd use our lunch break today to have a bit of a chat about some of the things that Adam works on outside of his work commitments. So one of the things that you're doing that we sort of got me a lot of interest in what you're doing is a project called the Good Man Klub.
Yep.
So can you perhaps tell us a bit about that and how that sort of originated, I guess,
Yeah.
as a base, and then also from following on from there, what it's about,
Yep.
what you're doing with it.
Totally, I can do that. It's actually in a interesting phase for me at the moment. I've probably been I've been doing the work for a while, but the Good Man Klub probably started maybe 7-8 months ago, and it's like had many different forms of what it is.
Sure, evolved.
As I've evolved.
Yeah.
But at the moment, it's in a bit of a spot where I'm not sure where to go, because basically originated. Sorry to go deep quick, but
Go for it.
my mate took his life when I was about 21.
How old are you now?
28.
Okay.
So 7 years ago. But it was, massively impactful on my life, and it's kind of, I've carried the weight for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I suppose a lot of, I was, at the time he did that, I was doing lots of drugs, drinking lots of alcohol, just doing all kinds of bad stuff.
As you do as a 21-year-old.
Yeah. And since that day, I kind of vowed that I would be a different man because of what happened to him.
Yeah.
So I've been working on, my character. I've stopped taking drugs unless it's like a psychedelic or a healing journey, and stopped drinking as much, and just really turned my life around since then.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my drive for a lot of the work I do. So I went into suicide prevention and men's groups and all different kinds of stuff, Rites of Passage and all that. And I suppose what I'm finding now is a lot of it was coming from a big place of pain or filling the space that he kind of left.
Yeah.
So I kind of took this role I've got to avenge his death, or I've got to make his death worth something.
Sure.
I've got to create something that, because he died, I have to make something that makes that, worthwhile as much as I can. That's kind of been my way of probably dealing with it and healing from it. And
but with good outcomes. I mean, obviously using it as an impetus to promote good outcomes for yourself and other people as well.
Totally.
So,
But it's I suppose along my healing journey, I've had to find new motivations to do the work. And that's where the struggles come. It is
what you're talking about there is they'll call it the artist's dilemma as well. You hear about, some of the greatest artists at our time, like Brian Wilson, I'm thinking of Daniel Johns from Silverchair as well. They make great art and do amazing things when they're in that pain. There's that pain that's the motivation to just create amazing things. But when that pain is no longer there, then where does that inspiration come from and the motivation to do? It's a funny
exactly.
thing.
And that's kind of exactly where I'm at, because I kind of recognised how much that was ruling my life, that event, for so long.
Right.
Because, I've thought about it every day for years and everything I've kind of done, and a lot of regret on what I could have done. And so, this has been the drive of, no, I've got to make this right kind of thing. And now that I suppose that's been a big healing time for me. The recent maybe 3 months, I've been working through a lot of that healing. And, as you say, that now that the pain's not driving what I'm doing, I'm having to re-find my connection to the work, I suppose, what I want to give and why. I don't know, I'm so early days, but I'm literally I'm feeling really it's scary because that's been my purpose for so long. Has to mean like
a part of your identity.
I'm Adam and I help men and I work with youth and I'm suicide prevention. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And like now that that's all kind of, it's like pretty strong for me at the moment. Like I feel like I'm losing a bit of purpose in it, or I at least need to re-find it in a way.
Sure. Or evolve it. We were talking a little bit about before, like just evolving how you're doing it, what you're doing it, but it's almost like starting from scratch again, isn't it?
That's what it feels like, yeah.
And especially if you see yourself as and feel yourself as well, especially on that emotional level, which a lot of that creative drive comes from, then that's a big thing to like go, oh, hang on, now what am I doing?
Yeah.
Why am I really doing this? And is it going to be beneficial for not only myself, but others around me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And it's like, the other funny one is like you recognise, as embarrassing as it is, like sometimes you recognise like you do things for like as the recognition, like, oh, Adam's a good bloke, he works with young people, or he's a good man, you know, he helps me and he does all this, and like I've had to catch myself on that too. It's not too deep in me, but I've noticed a lot of stuff is for like the approval of others, or to look like a good dude because of maybe my past or what I want to prove to my family or older friends that like I've turned into this really great dude kind of thing, and like I prefer not to do it that way. So there's all these things that were really driving me that I'm letting go of. Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah. And it's like, it's fucking hard. Yeah. Yeah. Do you know who Ryan Holiday is, the author? Yeah. So he's wrote many books, but one particularly around Stoicism and the acts of Stoicism. But he'll joke that like when it comes to his home front, it's actually his wife is the Stoic, and that he just talks about it. There's nothing Stoic about him whatsoever. And my partner Leah, she'll speak to this as well. You know, you and I feel we've had similar journeys over the last few years with different plants and healing modalities, and I've something I've really had to give a lot of contemplation to of late as well, is that like I'll talk about these, I've got this blog and this podcast and I'll talk about all these things, but I don't necessarily always live it. So it's like reconciling that within me, like should I be talking about this if I'm not necessarily always living it in the minute to minute in my daily life? Totally. But Duncan Trussell, a guy I really like listening to as well, he sort of talks about it as like, for him, it's like a reminder to himself. Like he'll write about it and talk about it and produce something and create something, but it's more of a reminder to himself that this is what he needs to do. Yeah. And if someone else gets some benefit out of it, then fantastic. But I like that. Yeah, it's again, the reconciliation of that is a tough one, because we have this, I mean, at its extreme level, we see that with the Catholic Church, for example, and the priesthood, where they'll put themselves or hold themselves to a unattainable level, and then what happens then is, because human beings like everyone else, they can't live up to that. There's this opposite reaction which creates great trauma, and that goes through all different levels of society. And I think if we can at least be aware of it, then it's great. But then it's what do we do afterwards? Yeah, that's the hard part. Totally, I get that, because like you're sitting there and you're writing a friggin' Instagram post, but like about whatever you're writing about, and it is like a lot of time it is a reminder for yourself, like. But you're sitting on the other side of the computer, like miserable, you're fighting with the missus, you're in a job you freaking hate, and you're just like, here I am trying to motivate these people, and I don't, like, especially when you're in a shit spot, you're like, and I don't even have it together, Like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I mean, I've witnessed it, like I've witnessed it with different people that I know who have gone through something, or are going through something quite intense in their life, where they've, behaved in a way or acted in a way that's not with great morals or ethics, but then the next minute they're putting out an Instagram post or a Facebook video about join up to my new course on whatever it is, and there's a lot of that in the world at the moment, and there's no way to regulate it, there's no way to prevent other people from being a part of it. You just sort of have to, something I've been reconciling of late too, is just understand that that's that person's journey, and anyone who's a part of that, that's part them for to learn as well. So I think as long as, I don't know, I mean, this is only a very subjective understanding that I have of it as well, of course, but I think as long as the intention is good, then all groovy.
it's checking into that though, like especially in an age where transparency is becoming more and more part of our lives, where there's no the space to hide our bullshit is becoming less and less. I think it's going to have to come through authenticity of who we are, how we're behaving, and then moving with that, rather than just putting up a front of this is what's going on and this is what I feel like everyone should be doing. But it's a tough one to
find, like, because I know that a lot of the time the answer is like, be authentic, share your problems with the world, and like, but like, fuck. What do you say to people? Like, you're trying to motivate people. I'd be like, the last 3 months would be the darkest Instagram of all time if I was being authentic.
Sure.
You know?
But why? But that's the thing though too. Like, why not? Just do that. Just share that. You know, because I have the same thing too. Like, I go through time. Like, a friend of mine, we were talking yesterday, just on I think it was on LinkedIn or something. She goes, I'm sure you're a great father, and I'm like, yeah, like I try to put out there, you know, like the happy photos of me and my daughter Layla, and you know, I'm doing these good things as being a father and all that. But no, I'm not always a great father. Like, there's times where I lose my patience and times where I just don't know what I'm doing, and I've got like a reluctance to share that. I have this reluctance to share that aspect of me, even though I know everyone else around me is going through the same thing. Yeah, I think it's a lot of that second life type.
It is
advocacy that we have for what we're doing.
Yeah. Because like everyone's struggling.
Everyone's struggling.
And that's what I kind of like got. Part of me hated about like being on Instagram and stuff, and like it's hard because it is the way like to reach people.
Yeah, it is.
So
it's a great forum.
Yeah, you've got to be there. Well, like, you know, you don't have to, but it's the best way to.
Yeah.
And then like, again, you like to find people. A lot of time these days you have to pay. Like, so you know, you're having to charge people with things, and a lot of time they don't use it unless they pay for it anyway.
Sure.
But anyway, like
what do you mean, like as far as
like
what?
Usually when you give someone something for free. A free course or something, they'll just look at it and they can't be fucked. If they spend $1,000 on it, it's more likely they'll do it.
Because they're not invested in it. Otherwise it's like a warranty.
But what I kind of got was just all like it's just like everyone's just bullshitting, like making out like life's real good and it's real cruisy and live this laptop fucking lifestyle or this and that, and it's just like.
But it's all bullshit.
Like, life is majority, like, shit. Like, you know, like, you can be grateful and all that, but a lot of it's just fucking hard, you know?
Life is suffering.
Yeah. And, like, I truly believe that, you know? Like, obviously I have beautiful times and stuff, and, like, I sit there and love my family and friends and what I've got, but a lot of the time I'm still struggling, you know, like, and they say, you know, it's funny because you'll be like, oh, there's kids starving in Africa or this is happening, but, like, you can say all that, but like to actually truly believe that you're grateful and happy in your life and everything's perfect is actually difficult.
It is,
like, it's like the shit that you're, you know, work or you've had an argument or a breakup or like in your life, that means a lot, you know?
Yeah,
like,
definitely. It's all relative. Right? Yeah, exactly. And I mean, if you're a monk or something like that totally detaches from the material world. Cool. I mean, and you can live in a space of gratitude and it's all good and you can talk and profess about it. But when you're in the day to day, like it's a different story. And I don't feel like it's even our fault as individuals. I think, well, it is. I should say we have a responsibility, but it's the way our society and our culture is formed. It is about extracting every single little bit of energy out of ourselves. Yeah. In the implementation of what, I don't know exactly, but that's this doctrine that we seem to have is about just getting the most out of ourselves and like doing the most. And if you're not, then you're some sort of, you know, failure or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it's a hard one to really understand. And I feel for like, and I guess I can speak to men obviously because I'm a man as well. And I feel like women and men have similar things that we need to look at, but there are differences, of course. We're in a space at the moment as men where we're really like just don't know what the fuck to like. It was always so like, you know, you think about our dad's generations, our parents' our grandparents' generation, etc. Going back, there was always like sort of clearly defined roles of the masculine in our society. And I guess starting from probably our parents' generation, that really started to change until now, where there's a lot of men we're just like, we don't know what we're actually supposed to be doing.
It's crazy.
I don't. Like, am I supposed to be like the father at home and then the person that goes and works 40 hours a week and then if am I not doing that well enough, or like what it is? And on top of that, we're also bearing the brunt of. I think what happens is that, like for your friend, for example, we then are bearing the brunt of a lot of social pressures of things that generations in the past have done, like the sort of trauma and the suffering that men have inflicted from the past.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're at a point in our generation where we're being held accountable to it. So groovy, that's good. It's good to see that's changing, but I don't think as men we really have the systems set up in place to, like, how do we deal with that?
Yeah.
Like, we know men have fucked up in the past. Like, we know we've had some sort of issues, but not all men are bad.
No.
And in fact, there's a lot of good men out there. And I think what's good about what you're doing and are doing with Good Man Klub is it just sort of honouring that and looking at the positive aspects and way we can help in society, because it's important. But there's also a lot of stigma around doing that sort of work as well. Like, I used to do men's circles as well, and even though it was overwhelming support for them, it'd still be like little sort of, why are you doing that for? Why do men need that? Like, it's, you know.
I used to get messages from women saying, "What about the Good Woman Club?"
Yeah, It was actually women. Women were the only ones I ever had any negative feedback about from it. Yeah, interesting enough.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But no, totally, I agree. There's like a lack of, like most of the dudes that will message or come through Good Man Klub or like to get on the good, and because it is like there are good men and there are bad men. It's not like men, but at the moment there is like this thing where inherently
all men are bad. Yeah.
And it's like it's just they're people,
yeah.
and like they've had a certain amount of experiences growing up, trauma, whatever, and they're doing stupid shit, or like that a good up, or vice versa. But it's like it's mental, it's not gender.
It's a person thing, not a gender thing. It relates to women as well. Yeah.
But where was I going? Like the dudes that message me, it's mainly like they've got no meaning or purpose in their life, which is like that's where I found my deep time. Like recently, like losing a bit of touch with the men stuff. Like there's not that vigor to get up and come here every day because this was supporting my dream, or I had so like when you don't have that thing to step into the world as it does feel a bit lonely. Then the other things are like dudes are really struggling in relationships. I reckon majority of mine are like dudes after a breakup or in a relationship that's just fucked.
And it's a silent despair, perhaps. And
it's like, it's weird because like dynamics are just changing between men and women. It's a whole new which I've been like real fascinated by the masculine, feminine kind of research and stuff like that.
Yeah,
at the
me
moment.
too.
I've been doing a lot, and you can see there's just a big imbalance at the moment, and both parties are struggling to find their way. Because, as we were speaking about before, that it was always so clearly defined. Not necessarily that was correct, but there was a definition there, and now all of a sudden it's like it's been thrown up in the air and all the pieces are scattered. Men and women, we're both like looking at it going like, what are we doing? Like, who are we? Like, who am I as an individual in and amongst a relationship? And man, that is definitely a thing, like, right? Because like, I mean, I've been in a relationship for almost 3 years, and we have a partner, we have a baby as well. But before that, I was single for about 7 years. And it was quite easy to be myself in that, and like, not that myself was a great human being necessarily, but there was no mirror to really understand myself, and I guess that's one advantage of many, of course, that relationships do bring is it provides that mirror for like who you are. And so it's really had me thinking about like who I am and what am I expressing into the world if I'm not actually living it as well. But
of course, we don't want to get into the woe is me as a man thing because we do have a lot of amazing. If you're a white, middle class male born in Australia, it's pretty much you won the lotto, really. In the grand scheme of things on a global level. But it is relative, and I think if we're going to get the best out of society, we also need to get the best out of men. We're not really getting that at the moment because there's no. I come across this YouTube video yesterday. It's from there's a director, Richard Linklater, who did Dazed and Confused and all those coming of age type movies back in the 90s. They're talking about like how we've got a lack of mature, initiated men in our society. So basically those men who have gone beyond any of the limits that their childhood have put on them to create a certain immaturity there. Usually trauma is the big one. They've had a father or a stepfather who's just been an arsehole, come from that same sort of place. And then they're sort of taking that forward. And it is a thing, and I think it's something that's not really discussed, and it is seen as taboo that there are a lot of immature men out there, and they are uninitiated, and it brings into that whole thing of like ritual in our society. Also, as teenagers, these different rites of passage that are missing now, we replace it with alcohol and drugs, and so that's then in turn creating a society that is problematic. I feel our generation is we are at least aware of it, and we're trying to do something about it. But it feels like we're at the bottom. To me, it feels like we're at the bottom of that curve.
Those as you know, I've done a fair bit in Rite of Passage, and it's so true because in men's groups, for instance, you see. What I always say to the boys is you choose to be a man. You don't just turn 18 and become a man. It's something you choose in the way you hold yourself, how you behave, how you face challenge. It's a whole heap of how you treat others. It's not just you can drink a beer so you're a man. Because in men's group you see dudes that are 60 and they're recognised and they're still a boy. Or still behaving like a boy. Because no one's really guided them on how a man behaves or holds himself.
That's right. We need guidance. We need mentors, but there's a
lot of single mothers out there. Or dads that are just too busy at work and don't actually. Or just don't give a fuck anyway. Or don't give a fuck. So they're there's a lot of fathers out there that are at home, but they're not. They're not a father. They're just like a dude that lives in the house, and that's about it. And so these young boys are then also. That's what they're sort of taking after and looking at, and it's an interesting time, and I think as we grow and as we gain wisdom around it, it's that analogy that keeps coming to mind. The more we know, the more we realise we don't know. And it can be this sort of internal conundrum that can develop that leads to a state of a plateau state or something. I guess. I guess I'm speaking more about myself now as well, but no.
It's interesting time.
It
really is.
And it's hopefully things are changing, but it is, although it's hard, it's easy to what I've always said. I've done a lot of father-son camps, and then I work. A guy, he owns this company called Good Blokes Co, and he just gathers dads together around Perth and them get their sons together, and they go camping for 3 days, and you organise a rite of passage kind of thing. And
cool.
It is that simple in ways, if you're connected dad at least and know, you round up your mates and get all your kids out and do and there's a pretty, simple structure to a rite of passage.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And when you're doing something like that, you're in that moment and you realise that this is true. This is who I am as a human being. And I haven't done any rites of passages or anything like that, but I've held fire ceremonies in the bush, and I've been to Blazing Swan, the Perth version,
which are rites of passage.
They are rites of passage in their way. I've done many ceremonies, but when you're in that moment, you realise that this is who I am. I'm not the I'm not the person who goes to work for 40 hours a week. I'm not the TV shows that I watch or the podcasts I listen to. Like, I'm none of that. But when I'm in nature with my brothers and sisters, that's who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I'm supposed to be, and this is how I feel most fulfilled as a human being. But again, like going back to what we were speaking to earlier, is that we don't live in that society, we don't live in that culture.
So fucked. It's just like, I can't get away from the problem, or not the problem, but the thing of money, you know, because it's like
that's what it's wrapped up in.
That's the life you want to live,
you
know, out in nature with your mates, like, or like seeing friends, connecting with others, like living off the land, whatever it is, like that's the ideal life. But then you've got this thing that you kind of need, you know, in this day and age,
like shelter and things like that.
But it's like,
clean running water.
It's so hard to, you're like, I could work part-time job maybe and earn less, but then you're like, you know, I'm going to have a family, they're going to have to do this and this, like you want to provide a good life for them, and then like, and it never feels like enough money, and it's just like, I can't figure out money at the moment. It's just like, because I hate that it drives me so much, but it does.
Yeah, totally here.
There's a lot of fear around it.
There is, and perhaps that's the issue, right? Is that fear? I mean, there's different ways to look at what money is, and like Navarro Ravikant looks at it as like it's like an IOU that people pay you from work you do now in your future, and there's all these different analysis and ways and to interpret what money is and its drive that we have. But it's such an ingrained thing in our humanness that it's hard to break out of and just go, nah, fuck it, I'm just going to go live in the bush and just be myself. Like it just doesn't work that way, especially with globalization now too, where we're all sort of linked up in it. You know, we form this money grid all around the world that we can't quite escape. You're right. Like it is. To understand who we are on a deep spiritual level, like who we are as like this who I am as a higher self as Adrian, or who you are as a higher self as Adam. You know who that is, and you can be aware of that. But we still live in this physical reality that's very much dominated by capitalism and the extraction of resources, and to be the best version of you, especially as a man within that society, is hard to do if you've got the stresses of work, relationships, parenthood, money, all those sort of things. So, you know, how we can get around that and redefine it, I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's why I think it's important to have these conversations to try and work something out. Perhaps being easy on ourselves is a good first step. But I don't know. Is there any time in your life where you feel you've been able to incorporate and live the sort of normal life, but yet still sort of free from that burden?
I remember times being on a low wage with a pretty like flexible part-time job and being really happy.
Yeah.
But like, I don't remember not having the fear of like the future. You know, like, because in that job, for instance, maybe like it wasn't going anywhere. I got heaps of time with friends. I was doing like all these different camps and youth work and just doing everything I could have loved, and that was just my stable little money that I also enjoyed. Like, I worked at Lululemon for a while. I worked at a school for a while. Like, I was just like, sweet. Yeah. But it came with its miseries as well, because it was like, on one level you sacrifice a lot of pleasures of life, but you get a lot of spiritual growth of life, and then like the other way around, you sacrifice spiritual but you get more pleasures of life. But I suppose the biggest thing was like, fuck, you know, I'm 27, this isn't a career that's going anywhere. I want to have a family in the future, and I'm gonna have to like, so there's always that stress of like, I'm gonna have to provide for others someday, like I'm gonna have to, you know, so you always want to work for more and more. And then, so I've never really had it where I'm like 100% in it. There's always been a little ticker in my mind. Like, oh shit, time clock's ticking, you know, you're almost 30 now.
Yeah, sure. I listen to that as a 38-year-old and think, man, you're a spring chicken.
No, doesn't feel that way.
Speaking about being an adult, you were talking about before, it wasn't until I was about 30 that I started feeling like an adult. Like I was pretty much a kid up until the point of being about 30, but that's neither here nor there. But you're right. I don't think many of us have, like, I can't think of, like, even myself or different friends, we might have periods of time where life seems to be sort of just in a state of flow, and it seems quite easy. But then when you start looking into what you may need in the future and preparing for that, then it's like, oh, hang on, this isn't. It's not all roses. Like, you know, I've chosen to live in this society. Like really, like I live in Perth, for example, where rents are this much, food is this much, and I need to be able to sustain myself and do so with some level of comfort that I'm not going to starve or, you know, freeze to death in winter. So, but trying to, again, I'm using the word reconcile that a lot in this podcast, but trying to reconcile that with living a life that is more from the pureness of my heart isn't an easy thing to do. No. As much as I like to pretend that it is, and all I need to do is like live from the heart, speak from the heart, the mind is still can still come into it as well. Yeah.
And what does that even look like? That's what I've been thinking. I was like, I heard a question. I was listening to David Dyer, and he was like, you know, if you know, you're on your deathbed about to die, what would have you wanted to have done in life? You know, like what would have you wanted to achieve? What would have you wanted to have completed? Like, what do you need to complete so you die happy, kind of thing? And I was like, I don't even know, really. Like, I'm like, because there's that part of me that's like, I don't want to work and I want to like be around everyone, but then you're also in a society where everyone else works anyway. Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, what about if I did a job I love? And I'm like, what job would I really like honestly love? Yeah. Like, I'm not like obsessed with anything. Yeah. I don't feel like I have this like ultra overriding passion that I'm like, I need to be doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like
and then focus on that, and that's all you do. Yeah.
Because like, you know, after a few years of doing something, you kind of like it becomes a novelty. You know, like.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's a really good point, isn't it? I think, you know, a lot of people just say, oh, just create. Just go create something and do something and find your joy doing that. Yeah. But not everyone's into that. Yeah, yeah. Like there's some people that just like to have things to do and things to follow. And, you know, with that's perhaps that then is just coming down to who am I as an individual? What is it that I truly want? Setting aside any social expectations of what I should be doing, or, you know, what I should be doing to be happy or to be joyful. Like, what is it? But it's a hard one to work out. Like, it really is. And we don't really have any systems in place to help. Especially, I mean, it'd be great if we could work on that from a young age and like sort of define that from a young age. But instead, we go through a schooling system that's very much about compartmentalizing and getting you into some sort of box. And then from there, you're fucked, because it's a hard thing to break out of. It really is. Oh, yeah. You know, and I mean, you and I, I'm sure you don't mind talking about this too much. I mean, we've had our experiences, our mind-altering experiences where you can break out of that for a period of time and get some remembrance of what that's like. But then to implement it into our daily lives is another thing altogether.
It is. Yeah. Very hard.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're in that land and you're just like, I don't know, you know, you think you've got things figured out, but like, and then you integrate, and with each one I've become somewhat built character or stronger or had a realisation that I've been able to implement, but like, you know, life quickly gets to you. Yeah. And that's where people keep going back and back, but it's like, there is a like difficulty, because there's this spiritual, beautiful, loving realm. Yeah. But then to integrate it into this like a harsh reality, I suppose.
This dense reality.
Yeah. Can be really hard.
It can be. Well, that's the thing though. It's the integration, isn't it? Yeah. And I mean, firstly, it's even about how to experience that. I mean, in days gone by, you know, our ancestors, that was part of their daily, you know, or say monthly or quarterly sort of rituals, was these ceremonies that would be based on the moon or the sun, and you know, it was a very strong part of their life, and then they go away, integrate into their life, and then come back again. And we don't even have that opportunity to do that in this society. Instead, we have hardcore drugs and alcohol to supplement that. It is improving, I guess. Obviously, you know, things like ayahuasca, you know, where you're seeing that on a global level start to rise. But it's still not at a level that it needs to be. But then after that, there's not much in the way of a framework to help people integrate it into their daily life.
Yeah, that's the problem.
It is a big problem.
Because you can imagine back in the day, like, you know, the community is like, they worship or built around this thing, whether it be ayahuasca or magic mushrooms or peyote or whatever. But like, so they would have their ceremonies, but then also their daily rituals are, you know, around being better for that, or prayers, or like the way they've set up their community is based around farming it or working with it. And then like the way they hold themselves in their life is around, you know, what that is. So their whole life is kind of like, where we like go into this world where it's like that and then step into another world. Like, it's such a different kind of...
Yeah, exactly right. So here's a question for you then. Is this advent of psychedelics and plant medicines irrelevant today, really?
No, I don't think so. But I don't think it's as powerful as it
could be.
Yeah. And I think it's irrelevant for a lot of people though.
Right. Okay. In what way?
I just like... Because there are, like, you know, there are things that come up and you realise... But I just think it's so easy to forget, you know. I just think like you can just... So I can see it in healing modalities like, you know, MDMA with when you're sitting with a psychologist and treating that, you know,
for magic mushrooms. We have scientific evidence that it does work.
Magic mushrooms like anxiety and depression and, you know, working with them in ways that they're super powerful. And then like, obviously, you know, ayahuasca, you go do it and you do feel different. But like... Yeah, I don't think it's like... I don't want to say it, but I don't think it's like as powerful as... I think it is as powerful. I just don't think it's as powerful in the way we use it.
Right. I know exactly what you mean, In the framework that we live in the Western world. You're going over and doing it in Peru or something like that, and you live in there, and that for sure I can see you definitely get amazing benefits out of it. I've seen people that have had that. I just did the stereotypical 2-week thing over there. 5 ceremonies in 10 nights, plus a bunch of other things we did as well. But, you know, then I had to come back home and go back to work and then try to like... how do I live this? How do I move through life in the way that was shown to me in those 10 days in Peru? It's a tough thing to do. You know?
But in saying that, if everyone came back asking that question in their daily life, could be kind of cool. You know, if everyone had the experience of like, oh, that's what life can be like. Like I can be connected to this other realm and live in such a nice like way and like and find out all these things about myself. So maybe, you know, it does have a place where although it doesn't like, you know, change your whole world, you come back into the world asking different questions.
I know what you mean, exactly. That's a good point. So what you're saying, I think, is if we can really start to bring in and integrate into our political systems, our business especially, it's what I'm really interested in. We're already seeing it in music and art. I mean, that's the forefront of it really, isn't it? We're seeing quite a lot of it now. But if we can integrate it into some of those more hardline structures that we have of business and politics especially, that perhaps that will then create those seeds to grow a garden of you know, empathy and kindness and healing within our broader society, rather than just you know, a song that makes you feel good.
Because it's like you come back, you're like, oh, I want that feeling again. Maybe I'll start meditating every day. You know, it could be as small as that, but then if everyone started meditating every day, you know, like, so it's those little changes that those little views that it gives us on life and just that like connection to something deeper. You know, because that's what is the biggest thing for me has been like all the lessons and stuff I've got out of it. The biggest thing that stuck with me is like remembering like that I'm in something I don't understand and like there's something deeper and more spiritual than I could ever fathom around me, and like I don't know, it gives you a bit of purpose in the world when you kind of feel a bit more connected to some form of spiritual realm.
Definitely. Exactly. You understand how your actions affect those around you. And you know, the nature around you as well. But normally when I'm wrapped up in my ego and my angst and my vulnerabilities, I don't give a fuck. I like to think that I do, and I do most of the time. I have to say, well, shit, would even be most of the time. I have to think about that.
I know.
But when I'm wrapped up in myself, like I do forget about other people around me. I do
so
forget
easy to ignore.
It's so easy to ignore because it's like it becomes about me. But when you have those experiences with plant medicines and psychedelics, you understand the breadth of everything else, and we don't get enough of that understanding. It's not inbuilt into us.
No,
it's,
not at all.
We still very much have that monkey mind and that tribal thing that goes back from many thousands of years.
Yeah.
Trying to break out of that, people would call that's the ascension that we're going through, or the transcendence that we're going through at the moment. But there's also that thing too of like a lot of shit has to come up at the same time.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. We just have to like be okay with the shit that comes up with it.
Yeah. Well, because a lot of people are just walking through, just not even thinking.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know, but like
just
it seems
blind
that
to
way.
it.
Yeah. Just fucking going about their day.
Yeah. Exactly.
Not asking any questions.
Yeah. That's a hard one, eh? Yeah, because that's going back to that thing that not everyone's built like. I guess you and I are similar. We're like very inquisitive, and we like to journey, and we like to look here and there. But some people are just not the way they're built. And perhaps it's just that thing of like you just need a critical mass. I'm hoping that there's just that, what's that 100 monkey philosophy? Just get that critical mass of people, then the rest of the society changes. But sometimes you feel like you're just doing it on your own. Battling against the fact that you're just trying to like be a good human being. Anyway.
And once you crack it, once you like open up I talk about this with friends all the time, like once you start asking the questions and once you start like trying to be better and do better and learn about yourself, like it's just a never ending, you never figure it out. I don't think there'll be a day where I'm like, I'm sorted, man. I've got nothing. I've got no insecurities, and I don't think that'll ever come.
No, right.
So it's just like I feel like I've just cracked open this can of worms, and I'm just going to be on it.
It's like the layers to the onion, I've thought about that too, especially early on in my. I first had ayahuasca in 2013, and early on. So very early on, I was like, oh, fuck, this is cool. Like, I'm starting to understand all these different elements of myself and the world around me. But very soon that got into, oh, shit, this is like a Pandora's box that I've opened that I now realise does not end. No. There is no finality to it. There's no active transcendence. It's going to have to be like this constant process. And even worse than that, I've hit a point of no return. Like I can't go back to being that dude who was sleepwalking through life and I can't be that person anymore. So then I'm really having to go into this realm of suffering. I'm really having to look at all my stuff that comes up. I mean, I'm grateful for it. Don't get me wrong, but it is hard work.
Totally. And sometimes you're like, fuck, can I shut this off?
Yeah, I know, right? Can I shut it off? But we can't. And going back to that thing what we're talking about is that we don't really have the systems in place, the framework around us to help facilitate that. So it's can be very much a solo journey.
Totally. Yeah. Especially if you don't that was kind of the main thing of Good Man Klub is like it is a solo journey, and like you need good men around you to do it together.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you can be lonely if you're on the search yourself, or if you're going through a hard time, you don't have good men around you.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like you've got that and I've got that too. I'm very fortunate. I do have like a really amazing group of people around me, both men and women, that have been very helpful to me in my journey, and it's a reason why I've been able to sort of get to a stage that I have. But not everyone has that, and I don't think a lot of people even would know where to start.
No,
and whether it was like preordained that I'd have this support, or if it's just because of my own will that it happened, I don't know. It's just the way it was. But that's why I feel it's so important that you're like people like you are doing the work that you're doing, because it does give a voice. It does lend an ear to those who are struggling with something as they're going through their own shifting of the layers. But it can be a hard thing to facilitate. It is a hard thing to do as well. It is. Especially like we were saying before, you're going through your thing as well.
And how do you do it? Like a lot of people may not be. It's just a hard thing to pull off. Because ideally it was like, my dream was always to have like good man clubs around the world, So there's just like someone over in America wanted to start a Good Man Klub, and I'd show them how to run a men's group, how to structure it, how to get men together.
Sure.
And then like men had places to go to.
Yeah.
You know, that because there's men's groups around, but they're a bit, you know, this Mankind Project and stuff like that. They're very older demographic. And, can be a bit fruity for people who like it and new to it.
Definitely, or too much of a doctrine, like like what's what's that builders, the old school one there, Freemasons. Things like that. There's those old school institutions that were very much for men as well, but they're very very set in their ways, and there's a strong doctrine, whereas we don't live in those times anymore. Like in 2019, it's very different. So how do we build something that can incorporate today's age for men especially? You know, but you know, we were talking about women before. I think women seem to be doing it fine at the moment. You see the amount of groups that are springing up for women in business especially, you know, I witnessed it with my partner when we had our daughter. Like, you know, there's plenty of groups for women to come together and all that, but there's nothing for men. There really isn't.
It's interesting, but like, I wonder if that's partially to do with men. That's what I've been trying to figure out. Like, not that because we all crave it, but there's some sort of resistance there. Like maybe it's like the vulnerability or the breakdown of something, but like women are much more keen to get together and do something like that. It's quite hard to pull off something with men, like to get them to actually turn up and sit down and see. Once they're there, they fucking love it.
It's great,
you know. Because like every man craves just to sit, even like. Because I'm not a psychologist, none of the dudes in group are psychologists. Like a lot of it's just like, fuck, this is hard. And Mrs. is pissed off about this, and then you can work through it together. Or like, I'm hating going to my job. Like a lot of it's just like going through the hardship of life together, and like sharing your experiences and helping each other out. You know, and like every man craves that. But like it's hard, like because like men's group, I don't know, you know. So it's like it's just harder to get them in the room.
It is, I think time is a massive factor. Like we were talking before about, you know, you do your 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour work week, then you've got a family to consider. You know, it's like I look back now, and I travelled a lot. I did all these different. I went to uni for the last few years of sort of travelling, going to uni, being single, like putting up posts about, you know, doing yoga and all this kind of shit, and thinking, this is the way life can be, and this is all good. And then when I did have a family, it gave me a real understanding of like, time is an actual motherfucker. It is a big part of who we are and what we do. Not only time, but also money. So like
time and money.
All of a sudden, I didn't have the time or money to be able. So for the last 2 years, I haven't really been able to do much of that sort of stuff. Even what we were talking about before, we've even been able to do the podcast. So, I mean, could I, if I really wanted to, can I push myself and make the time? I can, and I think that's perhaps why we need to like change a frame for like. Instead of like having the time, it's about making the time. Like how important is it in our life? If it's that important, then we can make the time, but it's not an easy thing to do we're thinking about just like, what time do I have? You know, so
especially because like the Good Man Klub for me, so I had to slow down a lot because like just drove me to the ground because I'm like, I'll get up early, work on it, then I've got an hour drive to work, and then I'm at work 8 hours, then drive an hour and more home. Try and exercise, so I'll go to jiu-jitsu or something. Then it's like 8 o'clock, I cook myself dinner, and then I'm up trying to work on it. Like 6 months of that, man, I was fucked. I just had anxiety from being on social media all the time and on my laptop all the time, and like
you're not as physically healthy and getting it out.
Healthy, not eating as well. Like so, there's sacrifices that come.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I've tried to do on a personal level for the last 3 or 4 months is just sort of release all that and go back to start from scratch. So totally. Like I didn't exercise for like almost a good 12 months, you know. I had that period and it's been such an important part of my life. So I've just gone back to just, what is the one thing I can do that I've got control over, that I can do that's going to benefit me? Okay, exercise. It's not going to help anyone. Well, it's not going to directly help anyone else, but it's going to indirectly do it just by the fact that I'm healthier and more energetic. And perhaps it's maybe we can look at ways of creating systems that men can go away and just on their own, what can they do on their own to then it might not be the idea of coming together as a group may not be applicable to the society as we have it in this Western society.
Absolutely.
And so we need to look at more creative ways to help men get the best out of themselves.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate that we do have the internet these days, but we use it perhaps with that, perhaps we're not using it the way we should be. You're talking yourself, and I get it myself, this anxiety, this social media anxiety of like, how do I promote myself, or how do I promote my message, I should say. And how do I compete against a lot of people who are doing the same thing that are both doing it from an ethical point of view, but also not doing it from they're doing it from an unethical point of view as well. So you know what I mean? Sort of
totally.
Releasing all that, starting from scratch, and then building ourselves up again from that point of just could be purely just the physical. You know, both in physical energy, sexual energy, mental energy, rather than sort of wasting it on thinking about this or that, or masturbation, or not exercising. Instead, it's that is a massive issue within men. I think that doesn't get spoken about. It's not talked about in the public discourse about how much of our energy we actually it just goes. You know, there's a little bit of talk about it from the tantric aspect of it, from the sexual side of things. But we do it mentally as well, and we do it physically. Both in our reluctance to exercise, but also what physicality we do have is usually related to what work we do, rather than is it serving me as a human being. Like, you know, I love running. I love going for like runs, but like I don't do that as part of my work. Like it's something completely different. You know, so maybe that's a topic that needs discussion.
Totally. Well, because like it's like Naval said, like if you want to help others live the life you want them to live. You know? Right. That was huge for me too. To just like go back and just be, because you forget the impact you have on those around you, and you know, and how that spreads. You know, and I think that is where you start, is like with your community, when you're coming home to your partner, and you know, you're the happiest you can be, and you're out to your friends, and when they need help, you're there to help them, and you know, like that's where it all begins. It
is. That's the foundation, right?
Yeah. And then the last part. It's a funny one, because I've been looking into, like, I'm not sure if it relates, but I'll go there anyway. I've been looking into like causes why men are prone to suicide. In particular, like, because there's like, you know, normal dudes who've just been through a breakup or struggling or whatever, and then there's like actors and artists and rich people that you'd think are living the dream that are like committing suicide, and then there's like the porn addiction and the drugs, and then like that like releasing ourselves in so many different ways, or like, and like a lot of it comes down to this it's the masculine drive to like freedom, but more like this sense of nothingness. Like, we're always doing things so that we can feel like, you know, I've got to get this and this sort, and then I can just be like, I've got to have this amount of money, and then I'll be like, and like all this like craving to feel nothing.
Right. I know exactly what you mean. There's this
innate desire to just be in nothing. Like, you know, you're the happiest when you've laid down after a day and you've like done all this stuff and you've got nothing to worry about. It's like,
sure.
You know, like, that's the masculine drive, is nothingness, or a sense of like, just like
freedom, I think.
Freedom, and just like being with who you are, and there's nothing to do, nothing to worry about. Just I'm free. You know, I'm free of what, and like that. I feel like that does relate to a lot of suicide, and it's also that bliss you get after like porn. Although there's the guilt and stuff, there is that like during it. You know, they're things that bring us to presence. You know, like we're there and we're fixed. You know, we're out of our mind. We're out of this. We're in this portal of like. And then there's the drugs that get us there as well, and like they help us forget the world and bring us back into this singledom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is an issue, hey, because we do get to experience that through our addictions. But then when those addictions aren't present, then that's when this real deep density of suffering returns, and perhaps from that space is where a lot of suicide occurs. But it is especially, that's why we know there's a higher incidence of suicides amongst males, is because perhaps we do crave that more. Like that is a a substantial part of who we are and as human beings. And I mean, does it go back to our reward mechanisms in our brain? Joe Rogan speaks about this, doesn't he? In like the hunter-gatherer design that we have of like, go out, hunt. It fulfills this part in our brain, this mechanism in our brain that we feel good about ourselves. We can then take a break and then go back to it later. But we don't live in that society more. Now it's about the 24/7 grind.
Yeah.
Busy. Okay, I'm going to jerk off to some porn. I'm going to go take a pill.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And that's the only...
More things to worry about.
Yeah. And we're constantly accumulating more things to worry about.
Yeah.
Till all of a sudden it's like, fuck it, I can't handle it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck it. That's the words. Like, it's like,
I've got to get out of this. I'm trapped. And,
trapped,
Yeah.
Which is the masculine's like worst feeling.
Worst nightmare of being
freedom,
trapped.
Trapped. You
exactly.
know? And a lot of us feel trapped.
Yeah.
You know, in our relationships, in our jobs, in our life in general. You know, we feel like we're just, oh fuck, like I just want to get out of this.
Yeah.
You know?
But then to double down on that feeling of trapped, it's like we feel like we can't talk about it. So that creates an even more of an entrapment. And perhaps the only way that some men feel to deal with that is to take their own lives. Yeah. Because I'm not living the life as this whatever soul, spirit, biology, whatever I am, feels like it should be living. So I've got no, there's a feeling of hopelessness that comes about with it. So the only way to get out of it, doesn't matter if you're a multi-million-dollar celebrity like Robin Williams or just some poor guy living on the street. Like it's still the same story. It's just overlapped with what part of society you just happen to find yourself in at that period of time. But the conversation needs to be had. I feel like it is starting to happen. Like we are starting to have this conversation. We are talking about it. But we need a broader framework for it. We need a broader audience slash scope to be able to understand it and like work it out. Yeah. Like just work it out. Yeah. And help men get past their fear of talking about it as well. Because I think it's something that most men do feel, but they don't know how to express it. Yeah.
And like more men have to be, that's why I work for this charity called Zero to Hero and they're youth suicide, but like their main thing is actually training other kids or youth in how to speak to someone who's suicidal, you know, like because a lot of people put out signs before they do it and a lot of people like, well, you know, and although I'd like to be more comfortable at directly talking about it, there is like the first step in suicide training is like if your mate's depressed or really dark, it's like, hey man, like I've noticed you haven't been turning up to football training, you broke up with your missus a few months ago, you like been eating shit and you haven't been hanging out with us, like, are you thinking of taking your life? Yeah. You know, like it's that direct to bring the conversation into light. Yeah.
No skirting around it, just get into it.
But a lot of people, like you see people send a text message and like so many, man, it's so sad the amount of like youth suicides I've heard about that have sent a text message crying for help or like, but you know, indirectly, but enough that you'd know, but people just like, fuck, like even to parents, you know, they've told their parents, but like no one knows what to do. Yeah. When someone brings up suicide, it's like, fuck, too much, you know, like it's such a like dark word that no one wants to deal with it.
Well, because it's such an emotional attachment to it, right? Yeah, it's very hard to get out of that emotion.
It's like probably the evilest, darkest thing that could happen in the world is someone to get so messed up that they choose to take their own life. You know?
Yeah, right, definitely, yeah. Well, yeah, that's what some people call it the work of the devil, you know. It could feel like that. You know? It's really this dark density that comes across, but you know, that's the thing. I mean, it doesn't need to be that way. No, it doesn't. And we do have a great opportunity to live these lives in a way that's when it's harmonious with the nature around us, include other people in nature, then it can be a very enjoyable thing. You know, you still have your day-to-day stuff that happens and needs working out, but it is a blessing to be alive, and it is a blessing to be able to live this life. And I think there's too much of a conversation around just focusing on the joy, you know, just focus on your joy, just focus on the blessings, focus on your gratitude. But what you were speaking to, like at the beginning of this, is that's not fundamental to living a good life on a day to day. It's more also about being able to withstand the suffering as well.
Yeah.
You know.
And that's what pisses me off about it all. It's like, because then there's people walking around thinking they should be happy all the time.
Yeah.
Or like they should be living this fucking life that people are talking about living. It's like, it's just not true. So we should talk about the struggles, and people should know it's all right to go through a shit patch.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's just part of life.
It is, yeah.
But like, it's like, oh no, because you fucking do this and that and do your freaking mantras and whatever. And they're all helpful, but I'm just saying, like, there's
it's not everything.
Aspects of life are shit, and that's the way it is.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Like, and it's okay, because there's a lot of beauty and joy as well. Yeah,
exactly.
You know?
I think that's a really good note to finish on. That it is okay, and there is lots of elements to this world that are beautiful and fantastic. There's a lot of elements to this world that is dark as well.
Yeah.
We get to choose. That's the great thing about being a human being. At least we get to choose how we perceive it, and if we can perceive it through a lens of acceptance, then perhaps that's a good first step. I don't know. I'm still trying to work it out myself.
Me too.
And maybe one day I'll get there, but then I'll, I don't know, evaporate or something into thin air. But it's a great thing to have a discussion about. I think it's an important topic, and I think it's something that it's great that you're putting it out there and at least getting the conversation started, because there's not enough people doing it, especially from men. So it's good that you're doing it and creating this culture in whichever form that takes from here on out. You know, it's really good. So
thank you, brother.
Thank you, bro.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks for being a part of this podcast. It's it's fantastic to do. I was talking to Adam a little bit about this before. This will probably be my last podcast. So thank you to all the viewers for both watching this episode and all the other previous 88 odd episodes. And I've learned a lot out of doing this for the last few years, and it's been amazing to be able to talk to people like yourself and especially friends of mine that I've had that, you know, we have these conversations, and being able to record it and get it on camera for posterity is really cool, and just to be able to dig in that little deeper as well. That's the space that podcasts allow for. It's like creating a little temple where you can really dive into a conversation and dive into topics that you normally wouldn't when you're just shooting the shit with someone. It's good. So
loved it, bro.
Yeah, me too. Thank you very much.
No
and thank you very much to everyone else. How can people find out about you, Adam, too, and contact you and reach you in your
mainly on probably Instagram's the best one, at Good Man Klub, with a K instead of a C.
Yes.
C was taken.
Sure.
And K is kind of cool.
Yeah, so, it is cool. I like what you did there. So Good Man Klub.
Yeah.
Klub with a K.
Yep.
And you can follow some of the stuff that Adam does there and go from there. So
beauty.
Nice one. Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time, whenever that might be. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Really appreciate it.
No worries,
That was
man.
awesome.